so far to harbor life. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
Recently, there was a rather unusual debate in our community that attracted a lot of attention. I'm only connected to it in vague ways. I'm friends with FTFE, and I'm seemingly sworn enemies with Unirock. The same goes for the actual subject matter of the debate. The first topic, lasting the longest, was whether or not fellow YouTuber Brainy Beaver is a racist. I'm also friends with Beaver, and to admit my own biases from the outset, I am of the opinion that Beaver is not a racist. I'd like to offer my perspective on how this debate went. It was interesting, and while not directly connected to any fun conspiracies, I think talking about it is worthwhile.
Will it make life better? Does it deserve to exist?
Yes, I'm a simp.
Sniper Monkey.
The latter consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic marsal veins so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented.
This is the stupidest debate anyone has ever had. This isn't a scientific debate, FTFE. You're in a different
evidence is still required.
This is your tactic. It's not a tactic where the debate ends with people understanding each other and the audience understanding the issues.
Well, then you can admit that you've been defaming people because you've been saying things that are untrue.
The debate occurred on the channel Agree to Disagree, hosted by our Lord and Savior Conspiracy Cats and moderated by Crafty Keela. Due to the intense emotions that surrounded the debate, for the most part, FTFE and Unirock spoke separately to avoid them talking over one another. The times they did speak directly became dumpster fires very quickly, but the most intense dumpster fire was the one in the chat. Something I'd like to bring up. Only 2 live streams in my history of being involved with live streaming has this happened. The first time was on a stream 2 years ago with Red's Rhetoric, Steve McRae, Cheshire Vic, and several others. During that stream, several Steve haters appeared in the chat with extremely vulgar sock accounts. They had names like Cheshire Vic should get raped, and I hope Chesh is raped and Steve apologizes for it. They were of course immediately deleted, and this time around the same thing occurred. Several sock accounts appeared in Agree to Disagree's chat with names like Crafty Keela needs a big black cock up her ass, or Crafty Keela needs to choke on a big black cock, sensing a theme here, as well as the all-time classic sock account name, a repetition of the N-word. I point this out only because a lot of Steve's haters happen to be in this chat as well. The only 2 times this kind of disgusting and aberrant behavior has occurred in my presence has been when people like Exiled, Menace to Sobriety, Nate the Lawyer, and those sorts of people were also present. Just want to say, that's the kind of attention they bring to the scene. So if you happen to see those people, I'd advise steering clear. So, the first subject of the debate. Is Brainy Beaver a racist? Quite possibly the most ridiculous debate topic this community has entertained. The primary reason this is even a question is due to something Beaver did during a live stream with Unirock. While playing a first-person shooter, Beaver was struggling with the game and uttered the phrase, "Give an N-word a chance." He immediately realized what he had done and began apologizing profusely, and the live stream went offline.
What a fucking nigger. Jeez, oh my god, what the fuck? Sorry, but what the fuck?
Here's what FTFE had to say about the matter.
Okay, so this debate is about whether Brainy Beaver is a racist or not, which is a ridiculous claim. Of course, he's not a racist. There's literally zero evidence to suggest he's a racist. So why did this claim come about? It's simple. Brainy said a racially insensitive word by accident during a stream with Unirock where they were playing a game called Tarkov, where when you spawn into the game, you have very little equipment. Brainy was new to the game and he was playing with them. And he was frustrated that he wasn't getting any gear. And he said, I'm not going to actually say the word, I'll replace it obviously. He said, give a N-word a chance, referring to himself. Instantly after he said that word, he, was shocked and appalled at himself, profusely apologized. And it was a slip of the tongue. Obviously, I do not support that word being used. It is a racially insensitive term to be used, especially if you're not a person of color. But I would like to point out firstly that Brainy didn't direct it towards anyone but himself. And he does not think anything bad about any people of color, which is literally what racism is. Let me be clear, racism is a very, very real thing. It's a big problem, a horrible thing. There are millions of victims of racism every day that go through horrific things. And my big objection to using Brainy and calling him a racist based on that is that it belittles actual victims of racism. It makes actual victims of racism issues seem not as important because you're putting that on par with someone having a slip of the tongue. Brainy has severe ADHD. And as a father of a child with ADHD, I know that means you don't really have a filter with your words. During the time that this happened, Brainy was undergoing some very harsh personal times in his life. I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but there was issues between him and his wife that have now been resolved, and he was going through changing medication, and he was quite depressed and struggling with life. And it's not a word that's in his vernacular normally. It's not something I've ever heard him say before, or has anyone ever heard him say before. And he's never said it since. The claim that he's racist would mean that he holds a negative view of an entire group of people, but that simply isn't true. One of the first things that Unirock did when this happened was defend Brainy and explain the issues behind what he's going through, what actually happened, and spent 6 months keeping him around. And it wasn't until there was an issue later on that I'm not going to bring up because it's irrelevant, but once there was an issue between Brainy and Unirock then expelled Brainy from his community and started spreading the narrative that he is racist. I would just like to finish my initial opening by letting Unirock explain why Brainy isn't racist.
So here's what just happened, and I have to say this. Unfortunately, I have to make a statement because this is really... I want to defend Brainy, and I want to let everybody know why I just deleted my streams. I deleted my streams because Brainy said he said the... Fuck, I don't even want to say it out loud. He said the N-word accidentally. After I logged out, he was very upset. His voice was shaky. Brainy has a panic disorder, and he just started taking a lot of new medications for this disorder. I know this because I've been hanging out with Brainy for months. I wouldn't blindly defend any person who said that word on a stream, let alone my own. In fact, I would want to kick them off my stream, apologize to my stream, because I've been on YouTube, Periscope, and other places for a long time, and nothing like this has ever happened.
So even Unirock supported Brainy and explained that, it was a mistake. He's struggling. He's going through things. Brainy is absolutely not racist in any way, shape, or form. I yield the rest of my time.
Now, here's the amazing part. That should be the end of it, right? FTFE raises several good points. Brainy's situation contributed to his use of the word was not directed toward a person of color, and to accuse someone of racism due to a minor one-time issue like this is very demeaning to actual victims of actual racism. Not only that, but the nail in the coffin should be Unirock's defense of Brainy following the incident. What FTFE has described is exactly what Uni does. He will defend his friends for any minor transgressions while they are friends, but as soon as he has a reason to start a hate campaign against that person, he will change his mind on those transgressions. For anyone unfamiliar with my past with Uni, check out the video in the top right portion of your screen now. So, FTFE pretty much summed up the matter within the first 20 minutes of the debate. However, amazingly, this topic is going to continue for another 2 hours. Uni first has some tech problems while setting up his opening statements, a trend we've absolutely never seen in online debates before, but then finally begins to speak. The very first statement he made, I agree with.
Okay. This is the stupidest debate anyone has ever had.
Following this, everything Uni says is absurd. He begins with hearsay about racist jokes in his Discord server, but doesn't ever show any evidence of this, so I'm going to ignore it.
I'll reference his behavior in my Discord server. A constant problem we had with him was bringing up racist jokes. He would tell them, and after members of the server would respond, he would make an excuse for what he brought up.
He then begins to state that Brainy has a tendency to be hostile towards people he no longer supports / no longer support him. This has nothing to do with racism, but is honestly an overall problem in this community.
The behavior doesn't come out of him often. When he's calm or in a good mood, he doesn't really target anybody with the behavior. When he's happy with them. This is very important because it enforces the conclusion that this is targeted harassment. An example, Brainy has done very bad things to people when they criticize him or stop supporting him. I'll list some of them now, but I have a video I'll play in just a second.
He also characterizes one of Brainy's victims as a cancer patient, which is completely irrelevant to anything related to what Brainy said to him. Uni's second point about Brainy is a statement Brainy made about Nate the lawyer, who, if you didn't know, is black.
Nate, if you think I'm a racist because I accidentally at 3 a.m. while I was on new meds and adjusting to a life-changing situation in my marriage, that if you think that me accidentally slipping an N-bomb is enough to accuse me of being a racist, you're climbing a really long fucking tree, boy.
Uni somehow thinks this statement is racist. It's not. Calling someone boy is something that's pretty commonly used when trying to talk down to any male, not just black males, and the tall tree statement is just a variation on the phrase long walk for a short drink of water. I believe Uni knows the statement isn't racist, which is why he later recharacterizes the statement as go climb a tall tree boy. That misquote isn't an accident. He's trying to make the statement look worse than it is.
He didn't say boy. He said climb a tall tree, boy.
You're climbing a really long fucking tree, boy.
He said climb a tall tree, boy.
FTFE responds next with mostly confusion. He states he didn't see any evidence that Brainy is racist since the word boy is not inherently racist and only saw evidence that Brainy had occasionally done some mean things. This is pretty much how I felt.
I'm confused. I didn't see any evidence that Brainy's a racist there. I think he said the word boy when talking about Nate the lawyer, but he's from an area that's where they talk. That's just a word that they use. It certainly wasn't directed at Nate as a racial slur in any way. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. I genuinely didn't see evidence that Brainy was a racist there. Done.
Uni comes back with a new argument, that in order for Brainy to have used that particular word, the word had to already be in his head. I would counter by the fact that it's in the head of literally anyone who knows it exists, so that's not really an argument.
So when you're streaming on YouTube, you're only going to see portions of a person's actual thing slipping out. And it has to be inside Brainy's head for it to slip out. It's not like he's just sitting there when he gets angry and he drops that and it's just a slip up or something. This is something he actively is trying to suppress while he's on YouTube. And in those extreme situations, they slip out.
He then asks FTFE to show Uni where it states that ADHD medication can cause a person to slip racial slurs.
Also, can FTFE give me the medical paperwork? You can go to the med website. Show me inside of ADHD medication where it says, while taking it, you might slip some N-bombs. Show me inside of ADHD diagnosis where it says you may slip some N-bombs. Tell people to climb a really tall tree, boy, or admit that you have a problem of saying racist things.
First, this is a straw man. Side effects of medication aren't that specific because people are varied. The bottle would say something like behavioral problems or verbal outbursts, which is why FTFE responds with this.
And it says, this is written by a doctor that specializes in ADHD, ADHD blurs the boundaries between what you should say and what you shouldn't say and when to speak up. Impulsive behavior, one of the main symptoms of the disorder, can make others feel angry or hurt and make you feel bad too. ADHD blurs the boundaries between what you should and shouldn't say.
So far, I really don't see a valid argument from Unirock. I also don't believe he actually believes what he's saying. I believe he's a bad faith actor because in general, Uni doesn't care about social issues like racism. He's not an activist like that. In fact, he's been known to both shame mental health and be very homophobic on numerous occasions.
Him and Steve and Dick Dawson hang out, they go meet at these atheist conventions and stick their pee-pees together. As they admitted, they turn off the lights and put their pee-pees together.
See that video of mine, again, top right corner. Why would Uni suddenly care about whether or not someone is a racist? Because he has a bigger agenda, and for that reason only. Uni again comes back with a new argument. He shares some Discord messages Brainy had with someone on the subject of migrant workers in his area, and this is where I'll apologize for the fact that I downloaded this video at 360p. The HD file was 1.8 gigabytes and 4.5 hours long. Honestly, Uni is not worth that. So we'll have to deal with his voice reading out the messages.
I really don't care. I'm not a racist. My kids were playing all day with my Filipino neighbor kids, he says, which I have an issue with, and I'll try to explain it before the time runs out. And the hog barns here are 90% Filipino workers, good pay, and white people don't want to do it. I say that because we are them. He says that because we, Brainy, are them, the white people. It's the same with Mexican workers in America. I read good pay, but labor work we don't like doing. So they gobble it up. They make $20 an hour here in the barns. It's awesome pay for immigrant workers. You know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, so you know, they aren't allowed to use tools, though. You should see the safety books in the barns. Everyone is an injury. I don't like this either. They aren't allowed to use tools, though.
FTFE responds again by reading my mind. He points out that Brainy was actually speaking very highly of the migrant workers by saying they have a good work ethic and deserve better working conditions. Nothing about what he said was racist.
So he just showed evidence that Brainy's not a racist by literally saying that the immigrant workers are willing to do the jobs that the locals aren't. He's not saying they shouldn't use tools. He's saying that at the farms, they're literally not allowed to. That's not Brainy being racist. I'm honestly confused because so far Unirock has presented no evidence at all that Brainy Beaver is a racist. I have nothing else to say. My time, I yield it.
Following this, we finally have a moment of open discussion. Let's sit back and get some popcorn.
Hi, Fight. So you don't think, you don't want to answer my question that Brainy has never...
Which was your question?
There might be some lag, by the way, so it's not that anyone's trying to interrupt.
You didn't want to answer my question if Brainy had said anything around you that made you uncomfortable or made you that you felt could be taken as racist by someone else hearing it, and also whether you've heard anyone have this issue with him, because it's all over Twitter and a lot of people agree about that.
No, I've never heard him say anything, and I've never heard anyone apart from you and your crew say that he's racist.
My crew, okay.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, you got to draw that cancel culture kind of us versus them line.
You want to keep it to the Brainy Beaver thing and stop bringing her up?
Well, it's your tactic. You know, I don't believe you.
I don't care if you don't believe me. I'm just saying facts.
You're not.
You can call me a liar, but it's not evidence. You haven't presented any evidence that Brainy Beaver is a racist.
Please don't talk over each other. It doesn't help.
I didn't.
Okay. Apologies. Okay, yeah, no, I don't have a single example because he's never said anything that could be considered racist. He apologized to Nate because he realized that he accidentally said a racially insensitive word, as I said. He accidentally said one thing that he's never said before in his life and has never said again, and he instantly realized, you know that, Uni, because he was all shaking and stuff, as per your words. He instantly realized it was the wrong thing to say and realized that it needed an apology.
Okay. Well, it's the fact of him having very insane racial conversations while apologizing to Nate. I mean, I've shown these to many people, and some of them agree with you. Some of them say what you say, very few. The majority does say that it's extremely, it's almost like he's trolling, right? And that when he gets angry, he tries to piss people off. Though, for some reason... None of that's
to do with Brainy being a racist.
Well, it does, because for some reason... in his mind, he's calling from things that are already there. You have never said anything like this because I do believe in your life, you most likely don't use those words. I believe that Brainy had those, you know, and I did want to ask you
what you believe is not evidence.
This isn't a scientific debate, FTFE. You're in a different
evidence is still required.
Okay, I'm removing both. Because it's obvious that we can't play nice together.
Well, that didn't go well. Uni has now made a fundamental error in his reasoning that he's going to repeat throughout this stream, that evidence is only required when discussing matters of science. Not only does this ignore the entire judicial system, which, uses trials with evidence to form verdicts, it also ignores how debates themselves work. Here's how it's meant to go, Uni. Side A says A is better. Side B says B is better. Side A presents evidence for why A is better. Side B presents evidence for why B is better. Side A presents counter-evidence to Side B. Side B presents counter-evidence to Side A. Final opinions are formed based on the preceding back and forth, and the audience decides who was more convincing. That's how a debate works. They revolve entirely around evidence, which is why FTFE is going to keep asking for it. He's going to be a bit of a jerk about it because emotions are high and he's used to dealing with exceptionally stupid individuals, so this is nothing new.
So, okay, Uni.
Yeah.
The question here is show and explain how the screenshots that you've been sharing is 100% proof that Brainy Beaver is racist.
We don't have to go with the standard of 100% proof for people to form an opinion, though. It's crazy to me. I know we're dealing with people that deal with science all the time. We're not dealing with science here. We're dealing with human behavior. And instead of thinking in that kind of clear-cut realm, we're not living with them. We're not next to him. We don't have a video camera on him. And these things are literally admitted as slips. They come from somewhere. It has to be originating in his mind to be slipped. It has to be something he says regularly. He admits to be country. Now, I know how that is. I grew up in the country.
Uni's counter-argument to the need for evidence is completely baffling to me. He states that we're not dealing with science, we're dealing with human behavior. I'd just like to respond by laughing in psychiatry. There is an entire science dedicated to human behavior. He also repeats that Beaver had to have the N-word in his head in order to say it, and I repeat that anyone who has ever heard it in their entire life has it in their head.
He is trying to show evidence that Brainy is racist, so I'll ask him again to please explain exactly in these messages that he is using as evidence how it shows that Brainy is racist, when in these messages he specifically says that he thinks these people should even be paid more. Also, I thoroughly object to Unirock's assertion that we do not need to provide complete evidence before we make accusations of somebody being racist. Whether you think this is a scientific debate or not, of course it's not, it's a ridiculous debate, but any debate requires you to bring evidence, not opinions. So, do you have any evidence, Unirock, that Brainy Beaver is a racist in these messages that you are presenting, yes or no?
Right.
Well, maybe I'm just a bit biased, but I agree with everything FTFE just said. The standard of evidence is paramount in debate, and if the evidence presented is not clear, it needs to be explained in no unclear terms. So what's going to happen in this next section of open debate?
Round two, ding ding dong dong. Off you go, guys.
So what was the last question you asked me, Fight? Because I'll answer your question.
My question was, those DMs from Strawberry Harpy that you have presented as evidence that Brainy Beaver is racist, please point to exactly in those DMs the part that you consider to be racist.
Okay. I'm going to go 2 seconds whenever I think you're done. All right.
I'm done.
You're missing the point, Fight. It's not a scientific debate. Human behavior and judging it is, and we're here to argue our opinions. This is not something anyone can prove through science.
This debate is about whether Brainy Beaver is racist, so I'm going to demand evidence that Brainy Beaver is racist. Do you have evidence that Brainy Beaver is racist, yes or no?
Yes, I do. I've just presented
Please present
it
that
to you.
evidence.
If you're not
there's
going
no
to
evidence
accept,
there.
Yes, because I think there is an issue where you're trying to demand a scientific standard of evidence as opposed to the evidence that drives the opinions of all of these people that believe this.
I would just like to point out that Uni claiming many people believe his evidence is sufficient is completely false. It likely comes from an opinion formed in his echo chamber. He asked his friends if the evidence was good, and his friends said yes because they're his friends. However, on this platform, with support from both sides, the overwhelming opinion is that his evidence is not sufficient.
It comes down on you. Yes, because I think there is an issue where you're trying to demand a scientific standard of evidence as opposed to the evidence that drives the opinions of all of these people that believe this. And even people outside of this issue, this like sided thing that's out there, when looking at what happened from start to finish, and we'll use these DMs as the finish point, they believe that it does show his problem. He's calling to racist words.
I believe that Uni knows the evidence isn't good, which is why he does this.
Well, I guess that's the problem, Fight. You believe that it's all about you, your perspective, what you feel, how you take it when Brainy says these things. And maybe that's why, because you demand a scientific standard when being able to identify someone as a racist, that it took you so long to realize that your best friends were running fraudulent fundraisers and lying about it to take
sorry,
money from the
excuse
community.
me. This is about Brainy Beaver. I'm going to ask that the mods ask Uni respectfully to only talk about Brainy Beaver and nothing else.
Oh, yeah. That's why I know why you're doing that.
That's called deflection, Uni. This continues for some time while Uni tries to worm his way around definitions, noting that the topic didn't specify whether or not opinions were being discussed. This is something Uni likes to do. He remains intentionally vague and removes all context, which allows him to address everything with the most deliberately coordinated verbiage to further his narrative. This is why he referred to Beaver mocking Globachillis to harassing a cancer patient. It's all very charged language. Eventually, the two reach irreconcilable differences. FTFE demands evidence for Uni's claims, and Uni maintains that his opinions are sufficient. Uni is allowed to make a statement during which the chat continues to disagree with him, and he speaks more about Brainy's behavior that doesn't involve racism whatsoever. He also says this.
I already did fight. I guess
you
we're
have
just
presented
gonna have
none.
to. I'm talking. I already did fight. I guess we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. Because you have a problem with this in debates. This is your tactic. It's not a tactic where the debate ends with people understanding each other and the audience understanding the issues. He's using the tactic of doing everything in his power to craft and move the evidence to win the debate. That is not a good method of debate. It's why he gets criticism on YouTube due to his style of debate.
Unirock, welcome to YouTube. This is exactly what debates are. Never, ever in their history has the point of a debate been to convince your opponent of your perspective. Have you ever watched a political debate? Did you think Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were trying to come to an agreement?
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Honestly, dude, FTFE does debates exactly the way that they're designed. He presents his evidence and does everything he can to make sure his opponent looks as foolish as possible. This is why Uni generally doesn't do debates. He doesn't even know how they work. Next, FTFE is allowed to respond. He maintains his original points that one incident is not sufficient evidence, the second incident isn't about race, and I agree. Now the topic is finally winding down to final statements. First up is Unirock. He claims that FTFE doesn't understand human behavior because he hasn't studied it, simultaneously shooting himself in the foot because guess what? Uni, you haven't studied it either. Hard to study people when you block most of them.
When you say I ad-homed you, you don't understand human behavior. You haven't studied it.
Excuse me?
FTFE responds exactly as you'd expect. I'm not going to show it because it's repetitive, but at this point you know where he stands and where I stand. However, despite this clearly circling the drain, Uni demands to speak again. Again, I'm not going to show it because it's repetitive. Uni trying to speak on behalf of racism and on behalf of human rights is just embarrassing, because you can tell he doesn't actually care about these issues. It's like watching Milo Yiannopoulos giving someone shit for saying the F word about gay people. Although I guess not anymore, and now Milo is like Ric Flair or something. Anyway, they finally eventually move away from this topic, an hour and 45 minutes into the stream. They briefly deviate into an argument about how difficult the scheduling of this debate has been, another trend we've seen in other debates before. It then becomes an argument about whether or not Unirock has defamed people. I'm of the opinion that he defames most of the people he speaks about, and for a third time, I'm going to put that video in the top right corner. Finally, the actual second topic comes about. This one concerns claims of doxing in the community that may or may not involve FTFE. This one I know basically nothing about, so I'm going to judge it solely by what's presented by the two of them. I will say it's amusing that Uni kept asking for specificity on the subject, something that should have been done before the debate, but that's what Uni does. He removes context and specifics in order to use it later to his advantage. Because of this, the second topic stumbles, because Uni wants to discuss a number of things that don't involve FTFE, So FTFE doesn't want to talk about it unless it involves him, which is understandable. A full 2 hours and 20 minutes into the show, we begin Uni's presentation on FTFE's involvement in doxing.
Okay, let's start here. FTFE doxed me. Straight out. He doesn't want to admit it. That's fine. This is what I think's going on. I think he doesn't want to talk about the other doxings because it does involve friends of his that he hangs out with regularly. They do this prolifically, and there's a massive amount of evidence to it. I bet you he'll do the same thing with this massive amount of evidence and try to wipe it away. Either way, here we go. He said to me on June 2nd, UNIRockTV, anyone that calls somebody a racist that isn't a racist is a piece of shit. You are scum. You're a deadbeat dad. You have contempt of court charges for non-payment of child support. Anyone supporting you should know this. Someone says, why would you bring things about his children up? I agree. Aren't you the one constantly crying defamation? I agree. Decide you can hear kids in the background of his videos. I agree. Sounds like they live with him. Yup. Maybe not his court papers. Very sad you stooped this low.
What FTFE said in these tweets is, in my opinion, pretty bad. People should always avoid personal information about anyone online. We have anonymity in this place, and that needs to be respected. That being said, here's FTFE's response to this opening statement.
Hello. Right, so, did I say that? Yeah, I did. Was it a dick thing to say? Yeah, it was. Was I angry and pissed off at Unirock for, literally doing hundreds and hundreds of defamations against me? Yeah, I absolutely was. However, the rest of what he said was not true. I didn't look up anything. In fact, all I ever saw was a blurry screenshot of a court document that suggested he had missed a payment and was in contempt of court. Unirock, I'm sorry that I said that about you. It was not a nice thing to say, but I didn't dox you because that information was already on Twitter publicly. Other people had seen it. I didn't reveal any information about you. I didn't, look up any of your information. I know nothing about you. I didn't know anything about a court date. I'm sorry for saying that thing about you being a deadbeat dad. I know being a parent can be extremely hard. I lashed out because I was angry at the amount of defamation that you have committed against me. Does two wrongs make a right? No. Was that the wrong thing to say? Yes. Did I dox you? No.
FTFE is technically correct here. I'll admit that what he said was pretty scummy, but it's not technically doxing, and he apologized for it, and that's that. This part of the discussion should be done, and strangely enough, Uni concedes this point after speaking off topic for several minutes. Following this, the subject of Uni claiming that FTFE bought subscribers comes up, and amazingly, Uni pulls the "it's just a prank, bro." He found one where he knew for a fact that he couldn't win, so he bowed out in the way that only cowards do.
Yeah, well, we can... Oh, yeah, buying subs is next, and that's a great one.
Okay, hold on.
That you've literally accused me of buying subscribers.
I didn't accuse you of buying subs. Come on. I was fucking with
yes,
you.
No,
Let
you were not.
To you. Wait. You just apologized to me. I want to apologize to you. Okay? Maybe it'll change your opinion. I was fucking with you. Okay? I don't know. That wasn't me. That picture I put out, I didn't make that. It was a submission. I took it as a meme.
I'm joking. Stop! The break! Stop!
Uni again whines that he can't just talk about the fundraiser scandal in general, but only the involvement of FTFE. Here's my problem with that. FTFE has already spoken about this scandal. Everybody has. If you don't know, two fundraisers primarily held by Red's Rhetoric, first for Sean Hufford and second for Ilya Moon, turned out to be largely fraudulent. I haven't been associated with any of these people for a long time, so I avoided any involvement with these things myself. To my understanding, prior to watching this debate, FTFE was involved indirectly by promoting at least one of the fundraisers. This isn't really his fault, because the fraudsters in these situations are very specific. Sean and Ilya. They pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, including Red's Rhetoric and everyone else involved at those events. Reds and everyone else just believed their friends. They made a mistake. It's something we've all done. Granted, some of them very aggressively defended those friends before the truth came out, and that's kinda shitty of them, but to my knowledge, that doesn't include FTFE. That's a basic breakdown of what happened. FTFE has done one, maybe two videos where he spoke about these events, and it was very clear that he had minimal involvement and what his feelings on the matter were. In my opinion, this subject is closed. Police have been contacted where necessary, and there will be, or already is, an official investigation going on. It is at this point that YouTubers should stop playing detective. FTFE's response to Uni's opening supports what I had known previously. FTFE was there during at least one of the fundraisers, indirectly involved with promoting it. After finding out what had happened, he spoke about it and concluded his involvement with most of the people involved. It doesn't seem to me that he knew what was going on at all, in much the same position as I was. It sucks, and it's a shitty thing that happened, but those responsible are being investigated, and we should be leaving it at that. At the beginning of the next opening discussion, Uni states that a smear campaign against him began as soon as he started questioning the fundraisers. The problem with this is that Uni has been actively hated online since long before this. Note that my video response to him, 4th time, was uploaded well before he spoke about the fundraisers. Did people respond to him aggressively when he spoke about the fundraisers? Yes. Was he right about the fundraisers? Yes. Did he still deserve the way he was treated? Kinda. He wasn't the first person to break the news about these fundraisers, so his involvement is tertiary at best, since nobody was listening to him anyway. However, Uni is stating that the smear campaign was a diversion method due to Reds and FTFE and others being directly involved in the scam. That doesn't appear to be legit by any means. Everyone spat at Uni because they always spit at Uni, despite him suddenly proving the truism that broken clocks are right twice a day. This discussion continues for some time, with no real progress being made. Uni's argument continues to be FTFE is involved because people were mean to me, yet never presents any evidence that FTFE is actually involved. He admits freely that all of this is just opinion, making it all basically worthless. He also states that a fundraiser for the late Bullionator is being exposed soon, a statement that I'm extremely skeptical of. From there on, it's repetition of what I've already stated, and it's very boring before the stream draws to a close. I was mainly interested to see how all of the drama in the community was going to come to a head, and this was it. A truly unimpressive attempt from Unirock to remain relevant and play fake SJW against Brainy Beaver. FTFE did well, bringing his usual style and substance to a debate where he didn't have much work to do, because it was all about Uni's feelings, and quite frankly, nobody cares how you feel, Uni.
So Dead Kennedy in Space has, I think for me, this is the winner. This is the best super chat. Sorry, folks. For a Canadian $5 says, so who's the winner of this debate? It's Cats. Cats is the winner. I completely agree. Cats is the winner.
If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. If you want to support me further, consider becoming a member or a patron, or checking out my merch or my Amazon links. Thank you, and I will see you over the curve, Space Cowboys.
In a vast, cosmic arena. Our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some